Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the Smackdown review. Smackdown tonight was from the Toyota Center in Houston, Texas, and we had the fans back in attendance tonight for Smackdown, which I'm really happy about because from now on we're going to get live fans in attendance for the shows, and it is great because the fans are going to bring energy back to these shows that have been missing for a year, of course, because of the pandemic. But it was good having the fans back in attendance. And SmackDown tonight, this was the go-home show for Money in the Bank, which is this Sunday. And it was a solid show tonight. SmackDown was a solid show tonight, in my opinion. So we had on the show tonight, we had the Usos and Roman Reigns versus Rey and Dominik, Mysterio and Edge. We also saw the SmackDown Women's Championship on the line. Bianca Belair ended up defending the title against Carmella. We had Shotzi and Nox, Shotzi Blackheart and Tegan Nox versus Tamina and Natalya. That happened once again, which we just saw last week. And in the main event, we had a fatal four-way. It was Seth Rollins versus Big E versus Kevin Owens versus Shinsuke Nakamura. But overall, like I said, SmackDown was a solid show tonight. But before I start the review, if you guys haven't checked out my previous video, did a review of Space Jam: A New Legacy, which I saw earlier today. So check out my review if you haven't seen it. That film was surprisingly enjoyable. Had a fun time with that film. So check out my review of Space Jam: A New Legacy if you guys haven't seen it. Well, let's jump right into the review. So SmackDown opened up tonight with Vince McMahon. Of course, Vince McMahon, the chairman and CEO of WWE. So Vince ended up coming out. He came out to a pop from the crowd. So Vince ended up getting on the mic, and all Vince just said was, "Oh, where the hell have you guys been?" Which the fans ended up popping. And then Vince ended up heading to the back. And I was like, Vince, that's all you had to say? Was, where the hell have you all been? I gotta say, Vince, where the hell has your audience went? Look at Monday Night Raw's ratings from last week. A 1.4 it got. So there's my question, Vince. Where has your audience gone? Or I should say, where has good creative gone in giving us decent, good shows? How about that, Vince? You could tell when he said that and he went to the back, he doesn't give a shit. He doesn't. Proved it right there. Where he was like, oh, where the hell have you all been? Didn't say nothing else and went to the back. He doesn't give a shit. So that was what Vince did. And then we had the Usos and Roman Reigns versus Edge and Rey and Dominik Mysterio. And this was a decent match here. We had Roman Reigns end up coming out first. Roman Reigns came out along with Paul Heyman and Jimmy and Jay. They end up going to the ring. Reigns ended up raising the Universal Championship in the air. He got pyro. Fans were booing Roman. So then out came Rey and Dominik. And also I forgot to mention, SmackDown got a new stage, which my reaction to that, I'm like, okay, It's just a huge screen. It's just a huge screen that you would see in a theater. That's all it was. And we had no ramp. There was no ramp for the new stage. I'm not impressed. Was not impressed with how the new look for the SmackDown stage is. Monday Night Raw is probably going to have the same stage. So, not impressed. It's just a huge screen. Nothing special. Remember the days when WWE had, good stages, like the Monday Night Raw stage during the Ruthless Aggression era. You got this, and then on SmackDown, you had the SmackDown Fist. Those were creative. WWE has gotten lazy with the look of their stages. Oh, it's just a huge screen. And we're supposed to say, oh yeah, they did a good job in creating a new stage for SmackDown. Monday Night Raw is going to have the same stage look, probably. Not impressed. Not blown away by WWE's new look for their stages for Raw and SmackDown. So back to this match here. We had Rey and Dominik Mysterio end up coming out. And then Edge came out. Edge came out to a huge pop from the fans. So then SmackDown went to commercial. Then when SmackDown came back from the commercial, Edge was about to start the match with Jimmy, but Jay ended up attacking him from behind. Edge ended up catching Jay, ended up dropping him face first into the mat. Edge was then staring Roman down as he went to work on Jay's arm. Dominik ended up tagging in, started working on Jay's arm, and then he quickly tagged in his father, Ray, and Dominik ended up doing a double team on Jay. So Jimmy ended up coming in, and Ray ended up taking him down by his arm. Edge came in, and he started taking over. He was focusing on Jimmy's arm. Ray and Edge then double teamed on Jimmy. Ray went for the cover, which Jimmy ended up kicking out at 2. Dominik then ended up coming in for a double team. He ended up in a springboard moonsault as Ray ended up holding Jimmy down. Dominik then ended up grounding Jimmy by his arm. So Dominik and Jimmy were trading shots. Jay ended up coming in, and Dominik didn't see Jay come in. So Jimmy and Jay end up taking Dominik into the corner. Jay end up flying in with a right hand to Dominik. So Roman then ended up coming into the match. Roman ended up dragging Dominik out to the floor, started manhandling him. Roman was staring back at Edge. Roman ended up delivering a snap suplex to Dominik, which he went for the cover, and Dominik ended up kicking out at 2. Roman ended up rolling Dominik back to the floor, and Roman ended up slamming Dominik face first into the commentary table. He goes for a powerbomb on top of the announce table, which he ends up getting it on Dominik. So Ray and Edge end up coming over to check on Dominik. Reigns was yelling at the crowd. So SmackDown went to another commercial. Then when SmackDown came back, we saw Dominik end up dropping Jimmy with the DDT out of nowhere. So both Dominik and Jimmy were down. Jay and Edge end up tagging in at the same time. Edge end up knocking Jimmy off the apron, and Edge end up dropping Jay into the top turnbuckle. They both end up heading out on the floor. Reigns end up running to a clothesline from Edge, a nice clothesline from Edge. So Edge end up blocking a Samoan drop. Ray end up tagging in, end up nailing a flying senton to Jay, and then Ray hit a tornado DDT. Ray ended up going for the cover, but Jimmy ended up making the save, breaking up the pin for a 2 count. So Dominik ended up sending Jimmy flying out to the floor, ended up doing a springboard onto him with a splash. Roman ended up launching Dominik into the ring post, Dominik went face first into the ring post. So both Jay and Ray end up going at it in the ring. Ray end up dropping Jay for the 619. Reigns end up intercepting, end up driving him into the edge of the apron. Reigns end up turning around to a spear delivered by Edge on the floor. Ray then end up rolling Jay up for a 2 count. So Jay end up sending Ray into a forearm from Jimmy. And Jay then rolled Ray right up. So there you go. Roman Reigns and Jimmy and Jay ended up winning the match. Post-match, Ray was arguing with the referee. Jay ended up attacking him. Dominik ended up making a save, but both Jimmy and Jay ended up being down on both Dominik and Ray. Edge then ended up bringing in a chair. He ended up taking out both Jimmy and Jay. Ended up delivering shots to Jimmy and Jay with the chair. Reigns ended up running in and delivered a Superman punch to take Edge down. Reigns ended up taking the Universal Championship. He raised it in the air. So fans were chanting, "You suck," to Roman. So Reigns ended up grabbing a chair. He ended up breaking the steel rod off of the chair. And Edge ended up coming and delivered a spear out of nowhere and took Reigns down. So Edge then took the steel rod and he ended up applying the crossface to Reigns. He ended up pulling back on Reigns, ended up making him yell out because he used the rod. Edge ended up using the steel rod. So Reigns then ended up beginning to tap out. So Edge ended up finally breaking the hold. He ended up standing tall. Edge ended up grabbing the Universal Championship, raised it in the air, and he then laid the title over Reigns. And that was that. But overall, this was a decent match. This was a decent 6-man tag. So then we had Caleb Braxton. Caleb Braxton ended up stopping both Edge and the Mysterios backstage. And Edge ended up telling Caleb Braxton that he wishes making Roman tap out like a bitch just now meant that his Universal Championship win on Sunday was going to be any easier. And he knows he has to dig down and pull out something extra to get the job done. He ended up saying that he will be the most selfish son of a bitch. So Seth Rollins ends up walking up. He was laughing. Seth Rollins laughing. It never gets old. With the So Rollins ended up going on about how Reigns has Edge's number. He ended up going on to say that he will win the Money in the Bank contract on Sunday, then cash in and finish what he started 7 years ago when he had his foot on the chair on Edge's neck. So Rollins ended up saying that he sincerely hopes Edge wins the Universal Championship on Sunday so he can cash in on the man who made the Money in the Bank match famous. So Rollins then ended up wishing good luck to Edge, and he ends up walking off laughing. They ha 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 ha. And then Edge ended up looking on Seth Rollins, and that was that. So then we had Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn came out. Sami Zayn was ranting on the stage, and he went on complaining about how he's been excluded from Money in the Bank. He wants to say that the fans being back and all the shiny things are to distract us from the fact that there has been a conspiracy against him for more than a year. Sami ended up saying, "Oh, that's okay, because tonight he has something in his corner that he hasn't had, and that is the fans." Sami ended up saying that the fans have seen him be persecuted and victimized. So he ended up calling on the fans to stand by him and let them know that this won't be allowed. So he ends up trying to get the fans to chant, "Oh, justice for Sami." So Sami ended up changing his mind, started insulting the people of Houston, Texas. Ended up saying that he doesn't need them. He ended up saying that he needs justice. If there were any justice in the world, he would be in Money in the Bank. So he ended up saying that he will not let the show go on for one more minute until justice, and then he got interrupted by Finn Balor. Finn Balor ended up making his return on SmackDown. Finn Balor was in NXT. So Balor ended up getting demoted to the main roster. This is like the first time that Balor has had 2 demotions up to the main roster. So we had Balor and Sami Zayn end up facing off in the middle of the ring. Sami ended up welcoming Finn Balor back. He ends up going to strike at Balor, but Balor ended up dropping him. Balor then took off his jacket, ended up drop kicking Sami Zayn into the turnbuckles. Balor then went up to the top, and he delivers the coup de grace to Sami Zayn, which got a big pop from the crowd. And Balor, him returning tonight, the crowd really enjoyed seeing him. So Balor ended up standing tall in the middle of the ring, and Sami Zayn was shown trying to recover at ringside, and that was that. But Balor did not speak a word during this segment, which was good. I mean, Balor didn't have to say anything. And now that Balor is on SmackDown, what are we going to get? Are we going to get Smiley Finn again? Where he's just smiling like... Hopefully not. Hopefully we won't see Smiley Finn again. Hopefully they give him a big push and, treat him well on the main roster. Or else he's going to be back to where he was before he went back down to NXT. Where he's just Smiley Finn, like... That's all that Finn Balor was doing. Just smiling when he was on the main roster before they brought him back down to NXT. Smiley Finn. Hopefully we don't get that. So then we had Michael Cole. He ended up showing us a vignette of Apollo Crews and Commander Aziz. Cole was saying that Apollo Crews will return to action soon. So it was a little vignette on Apollo Crews. And then we had Natalya and Tamina versus Shotzi and Nox. This was boring. The crowd was dead during this match. They did not even give a shit. But we had Liv Morgan and Zelina Vega on commentary during this match. So if Shotzi and Nox end up winning this match, they will earn a future shot at the women's tag team titles. So the match ended up starting off with Tamina, and she was going to work on Shotzi. She ended up sending Shotzi into the corner. Natalya ended up tagging in, and Natalya was working on Shotzi while she was down. So Shotzi ended up fighting back on Natalya. She ended up connecting with a kick to Natalya. So Tamina and Natalya ended up double teaming on Shotzi in the corner, started delivering some kicks. Natalya then ran into a boot from Shotzi. So at the end of the match, we had Liv and Zelina Vega. They were arguing on commentary, and they started brawling. Liv ended up rolling into the ring. She ended up rolling right back out as Natalya ended up trying to go for the sharpshooter on Nox. Liv ended up leaping off the ring steps and attacked Zelina Vega on the floor at ringside. So Nox ended up taking advantage of the distraction, and Nox ended up rolling Natalya up. So there you go. Shotzi and Nox end up winning the match. They earn a future women's tag team titles match. So post-match, we had Tamina end up attacking Liv at ringside. Natalya ended up grabbing Zelina Vega, sent her into a super kick delivered by Tamina. Tamina ended up charging at Liv, but she ended up moving. Tamina ended up hitting the ring steps. Liv ended up taking Natalya out, and they end up bringing the fight into the ring. Liv ended up countering Natalya, and she ended up laying her out in the middle of the ring. So that was basically that. But overall, this was a boring match. Women's division on SmackDown here just flat out fucking sucks. The women's division sucks. Say the same for Monday Night Raw. Monday Night Raw women's division is absolutely horrible also. Both women's divisions are fucking terrible. I mean, who gives a shit? So then we had Bianca Belair walking backstage. So she ended up walking past both Robert Roode, and Dolph Ziggler. Roode and Dolph Ziggler, they were interested in Carmella winning. So we saw that. And then we had Carmella versus Bianca Belair, where the SmackDown Women's Championship was on the line. So Carmella ended up coming out first. Carmella, of course, the most beautiful woman in all of WWE. Yeah, sure. So Carmella ended up coming out first, and then Bianca then came out. And this match was just meh, in my opinion. Now, it was better than the match that we previously got with Shotzi and Nox and Tamina and Natalya. But the match ended up starting off with Carmella and Bianca. They ended up sizing each other up. Carmella shoved Bianca. Bianca ended up shoving Carmella back. Carmella then ended up slapping Bianca. Carmella then ran out to the floor, and Bianca ended up chasing her back into the ring. So Carmella ended up doing a takedown on Bianca. Bianca then leveled Carmella with a shoulder. She was taunting Carmella, and Bianca was telling Carmella to kiss her rear. So Bianca ended up drop-kicking Carmella. Carmella then got back up. She started working on Bianca in the corner, and she delivered a back elbow. So Carmella ended up attacking in the corner while Bianca was down for a quick pin attempt. Bianca then ended up fighting back until Carmella ended up yanking her shoulder first into the ring post. So because of that, Bianca ended up landing on the floor. Carmella ended up working her over. So Carmella then brought Bianca back into the ring, went for the cover. Bianca ended up kicking out at 2. So Carmella ended up taking Bianca back out to the floor, and she ended up launching Bianca into the barricade. Carmella then kept control of the match, started posing while Bianca was still down. So SmackDown went to commercial. Then when SmackDown came back, Bianca was in control of the match. She was mounting some offense on Carmella. She ended up running Carmella from turnbuckle to turnbuckle. So Bianca then slammed Carmella. Carmella then grabbed Bianca's leg. So Bianca came back with a handspring splash to Carmella. She went for the cover, which Carmella kicked out at 2. So the fans were chanting EST, which Bianca in this match, she was over with the crowd. And at the end of the match, Bianca ended up ducking a super kick. She ended up whipping Carmella with her hair. And Bianca then scooped Carmella up and delivered the KOD, the kiss of death, to Carmella. Went for the cover. And Bianca Belair won the match. Still retains the SmackDown Women's Championship. But overall, this was a meh match, in my opinion. But like I said, it was better than the previous match that we got with Natalya and Tamina and Shotzi and Nox. This match was better than that. But overall, just meh match. We all knew that Bianca was going to retain the title either way. Carmella had no chance. So then we had the Alpha Academy. Chad Gable and Otis. They were backstage. Chad Gable talked about guiding Otis. And then he went on about how they see everyone cower in fear of Otis when they walk through the locker room. Gable then ended up mentioning how Otis will beat Cesaro tonight. So Chad Gable ended up asking Otis what they smell in the locker room, to which Otis ended up saying that they fear smell. So Cesaro then walked up. Cesaro ended up saying that he smells bull, just like he smelled bull when Gable had that list of victims of Otis last week. So Cesaro ended up saying that it's a good thing he wasn't on that list. Chad Gable then said to Cesaro that they weren't even thinking of him. But he ended up congratulating Cesaro because he earned Otis's full attention. So Otis then ended up dropping Cesaro with a shot into the wall. And Cesaro was down as he was trying to recover. And then SmackDown went to commercial. And basically that was that, though. So then when SmackDown came back from the commercial, we got a vignette for Toni Storm. And I'm saying that Toni Storm will be coming to SmackDown next week. But wait a minute. Toni Storm was supposed to debut tonight. If you remember last week, they ran a vignette saying that Toni Storm was supposed to make her debut on tonight's SmackDown. I don't know what the hell happened. So, fortunately, we're going to be getting Toni Storm next week on SmackDown, making her SmackDown debut. So then we had Otis versus Cesaro. This was just a waste of time right here. So we had Otis and Chad Gable end up coming out first. And we saw a video package of how Otis ended up dominating on the Street Profits recently. So after that was over, we saw Cesaro end up coming out. Cesaro was selling the attack from Otis from backstage. So the match ended up starting off with Otis unloading on Cesaro in the corner. Otis ended up delivering a strike as Chad Gable was cheering him on. Cesaro then fought back, started delivering some uppercuts to Otis, which Chad Gable ended up causing a distraction from the outside, which allowed Otis to scoop Cesaro up, and Otis ended up slamming Cesaro. Otis ended up charging in the corner. Cesaro ended up moving out of the way. Otis ended up hitting the ring post. So Chad Gable then ran in because Otis was sent out to the floor. Chad Gable ended up running in. He grabbed Cesaro from behind, and he slammed Cesaro with a German suplex. And then the referee ended up calling for the bell. So Cesaro ended up winning the match by disqualification. Post-match, Cesaro ended up fighting Chad Gable off, and he ended up nailing an uppercut to Chad Gable. So the fans were telling Cesaro, oh, do the swing. Do the Cesaro swing. Which Cesaro then ended up grabbing Chad Gable, and Cesaro did his swing. Otis ended up making the save. He ended up beating Cesaro down. So Chad Gable was barking orders at Otis. Otis ended up destroying Cesaro and delivered the Vader Bomb from second rope. And that was that. And apparently Otis looked like he had some blood that was coming from his nose. But match was a waste of time. So then we saw Kayla Braxton. Kayla Braxton knocked on Roman Reigns' locker room door, and out came Paul Heyman. So Kayla Braxton ended up bringing up to Paul Heyman about Edge, and Paul Heyman ended up cutting her off. So Paul Heyman was like, Edge, sin tonight. So Paul Heyman ended up saying that he will confess and atone for those sins this Sunday at Money in the Bank. He was, of course, talking about Edge. And he ended up saying that then have those sins being out of him by Roman. Paul Heyman ended up going on. He ended up saying what he just gave Kayla Braxton was not a prediction. And then we hear, oh, Paul Heyman! And of course it was Big E. Big E then interrupted Paul Heyman. And Big E was telling Paul Heyman about how he's going to be the Money in the Bank contract holder after the pay-per-view on Sunday. Big E ended up joking that it appears that Edge has a hold of Roman. So, pretty much that was basically that, though. But it was funny with Paul Heyman, going, saying Edge. He was like, Edge. It was hilarious how he did that. And then we went to this boring segment here, where we saw Baron Corbin. Baron Corbin looked like a bum tonight. He had a freaking stain on his shirt. So, Baron Corbin came out, and Michael Cole ended up showing us a video package of, the recent stuff happening to Corbin. With Corbin losing his crown and losing to Nakamura, saying, how he had to almost put his house up for foreclosure or whatever. So Corbin ended up getting on the mic. He ended up saying that it's no secret. Just look at him. And the fans were giving Corbin the what chant, which was hilarious. So Corbin ended up saying that these last few weeks have been the most difficult of his life. He ended up saying that he's lost everything. He lost his crown, his car, his savings, his investments. And he ended up saying that the bank is calling with threats to foreclose on his house. Corbin ended up saying that his 2-year-old daughter is sick because she has to eat spaghetti from a can instead of Wagyu beef. So he was saying, basically his daughter has to eat SpaghettiOs. So Corbin ended up saying that they also had to fire their maids. Corbin ended up saying that they're going to have to move in with his wife's parents. But he ended up saying that there is hope. There is good news. Because everyone watching here and at home can help him out of these dark times. So Corbin ended up starting a crowdfunding website called Corbin Fund Me. So the Corbin Fund Me site was shown on the screen. Of course, it was like a GoFundMe. So Corbin ended up saying that he's not asking for much, just enough to help him get back on his feet. And the goal is $100,000. So he ended up asking everyone to go to the site and donate, because every little bit helps. There is no donation that you click on that site. It's just an image of, the site there when you type it in. So, once again, Corbin ended up saying that he's not asking for much, just enough to help pay some bills. He ended up saying that he hopes the people of Texas aren't as cheap as everyone else in the world. So Corbin then ended up asking, please. And he was dropping down to his knees. He was basically begging for the people to donate. And then out came Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens was fired up. He made his way to the ring. And Owens ended up entering the ring. Corbin got up from his knees. Corbin ended up saying that he wants to believe Kevin Owens is out here for the right reasons, because he wants to help him. Corbin wanted to say that Owens has locker room influence. So if he and a few other stars help out, then the fans will fall in line. He ended up saying that he's just like Kevin Owens, and that they have a heart and can sympathize with those in need. So Corbin ended up going on. He ended up telling Kevin Owens not to take this the wrong way, and that we know Kevin Owens doesn't spend anything. So can he find it in his heart to help? So Kevin Owens then ended up attacking Corbin. He ended up dropping Corbin with a stunner, and that was that. But overall, this segment was atrocious. It was terrible. Corbin getting on his knees and begging the people to help him out, to donate. He wants to make that $100,000 goal. Just absolutely awful. Embarrassment. This is trying to make us feel that, oh yeah, Corbin could be a babyface. No, he's not going to make a good babyface. Nobody cares about Baron Corbin. Baron Corbin has go-away heat, where we don't want to see the guy on TV. This was absolutely fucking terrible. So then we had the main event. This was a fatal four-way. Kevin Owens versus Big E versus Nakamura. King Nakamura versus Seth Rollins. This was a pretty decent main event here. This was enjoyable. So we had Big E end up coming out. And Big E, with his entrance on the screen, it was in a comic book style, which I thought looked cool. So SmackDown went to commercial when Big E made his way down to the ring. So when SmackDown came back from commercial, we had Rick Boogs. He ended up performing the entrance for Nakamura. So Nakamura ended up making his entrance, started dancing around the ring. And of course, he had Pat McAfee rocking out to Nakamura's entrance as always. So then after Nakamura made his entrance, Seth Rollins then came out. So the match ended up starting. Rollins ended up saying goodbye to everyone as they all stared him down. Rollins ended up going to leave the ring. Big E ended up running the ropes. He ended up delivering a spear to send Rollins out to the floor, right in front of the ladders that were set up at ringside. So we had Kevin Owens end up flying out with a dive onto Big E at ringside, which looked cool. Nakamura then followed that up with a flying knee to Kevin Owens from the apron. Nakamura ended up rolling Kevin Owens back into the ring, and SmackDown went to commercial. Then when SmackDown came back from the commercial, Big E ended up dropping Kevin Owens. Nakamura then ended up grabbing Big E, but Big E ended up tossing Nakamura out to the floor. Kevin Owens was fighting from the apron. He was working on Big E. Kevin Owens then went to the top, and Big E ended up fighting still. Big E ended up climbing up to go for a superplex to Kevin Owens, but Kevin Owens ended up resisting. And Rollins ended up flying off the top. He ended up missing as both Nakamura, Big E, and Kevin Owens end up moving. So Nakamura ended up dropping Big E. Rollins ended up taking over on Nakamura. Nakamura ended up laying Rollins over the top turnbuckle, delivered a high running knee. Nakamura then ended up stunning Kevin Owens with a kick, and he ended up hitting a exploder suplex to Kevin Owens in the middle of the ring. So Nakamura was shaking the ropes. He ended up going for the Kinshasa on Kevin Owens, but Big E ended up intercepting, and he ended up hitting the big ending to Nakamura. Big E ended up going for the pin on Nakamura, which Rollins ended up breaking it up. Rollins sent Big E out to the floor, and Rollins ended up grabbing a tall ladder. Rollins ended up sliding the ladder into the ring. Rollins used the ladder to drive Nakamura back out to the floor. And Rollins ended up going back out to the floor, ended up taking apart the announce table. Rollins placed Nakamura on the announce table, started working him over. Rollins then climbed the ladder to put Nakamura through the announce table, but Kevin Owens ended up stopping him. Owens then ended up dropping Rollins. So Kevin Owens was shown climbing to the top of the ladder. Kevin Owens ended up flying off the ladder and delivered a elbow drop, which put Nakamura through the commentary table. So Big E ended up scooping Seth Rollins up in the ring for the big ending. Rollins ended up sliding out of that, and Rollins delivered a stomp to Big E on top of the ladder that was laying down on the mat. So Rollins ended up going for the cover. And there you go. Seth Rollins ended up winning the match, winning the Fatal 4-Way. Post-match, Rollins ended up standing tall in the middle of the ring. Rollins then ended up climbing the ladder. And Rollins then unhooked one of the briefcases. He ended up celebrating up on top of the ladder. And that was how SmackDown went off the air. That was your go-home show for Money in the Bank. SmackDown's go-home show for Money in the Bank. So, but overall, it was a decent Fatal 4-Way match. And it was a solid SmackDown tonight, in my opinion. Wasn't a great show. Wasn't perfect. But it was solid. But anyways, that's it for my review of tonight's SmackDown. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and like I said, check out my review that I did earlier today of Space Jam: A New Legacy. Check out my review of that if you guys haven't seen it. So, but anyways, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all later.